Okay, hello and welcome to today's tutorial. It's going to feature around Paulo Dybala and hopefully it's going to end up looking something a bit like this. Okay, with this one I'm not too keen on the clouds and I think I've gone a bit OTT on the shadows, but we'll get started because I hate waffling and we'll get into it. So first we're going to do Command N for new document. Let that load up there. Okay, and I'm using width 1280, height 2272, orientation portrait. Okay, resolution RGB color 8-bit white. Okay, these this resolution here, like I've mentioned before in my other tutorials, that is just my phone, the iPhone 6. They're the dimensions for that one. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in the stadium and some clouds. In fact, before I do the stadium, I'm just going to size it up. A minute. Just going to move it around. Press Command 0 just to resize it. And I just want this little badge here just off center. So I'm going to go. It's locking in quite well there. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Okay, Command 0, zoom me right in. Okay, so I'm going to get the pen tool, so I'm going to hit P for the pen tool. Okay, and I just want to chop out the clouds. This is the first thing I want to do. And just close the path there, make a selection. Okay, feather radius 0. Okay, I'm just going to hit delete. Oh, need to rasterize a layer. And click delete. And press Command D. Okay, so rasterizing the layer means you can just edit it, that's all. So, okay, so we've got no background in a minute, so if I did that, you can see the checkered pattern. Hit V just to get me back to my move tool, okay? And then I'm going to bring up some clouds now. Like I said, I'll link the images that I use in the comments below, but I just want to have a little play and see what clouds work quite well. I was looking at this one before. Just drag it underneath a second. How does it look? Is it a bit too dark? I want something, I don't know, kind of. Oh, Command Z and do that. Right, I'm holding down Shift as well. Just to move it around. Yeah, happy days. Okay, so what Shift does, again, like I mentioned before, if you've not seen the other videos, okay, if you just hold Shift down, I'm using a Mac, okay, it keeps it all in proportion. If you press Shift and Alt, it grows in proportion. So, again, I'm just repeating myself, but I like that. Now, something that I did before in the other design, okay, just to make it a little bit smoother along here, is I duplicated the layer. So you can either press Command J, or you can just drag it down over onto a new layer, put it over the top of it, create a layer mask, hit the B, hit the brush tool. Okay, you want 0 hardness on the brush and up my flow a bit. And I'm just going to lower that flow. Just play around. It's all about playing around with it. And I should just make it just a little bit smoother, and then I'm just going to lower this flow a bit more. And if I press Alt, holding Alt and click, and see what I've just been masking out. I don't know, I just see how it just blends it in a little bit. It won't really matter later on because of the light, but it's just something that I like to do. So this background layer here, I can just throw that in the trash. I don't need that. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to place Paulo Dybala in there, just so I can size it all up. That's looking pretty good. So how did I do it before? Yeah, it's roughly similar. In fact, I'm going to move the stadium up a little bit. fact, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm going back. I'm just going to hit Paulo, Command T. I'm just going to bring him down a little bit more. Okay, so if you're going to make something like this for a lock screen, okay, just on the iPhone, I don't know what it's like for the Android devices, but on the iPhone you get the clock and the time here. So when I do like to make some lock screens, I just like to do it so the main image is below. Excuse me. Yeah, so I'm just going to hide him a second. Yeah, okay, so before I start blurring and all that, I'm just going to do a few things. So I'm just going to desaturate this here. So go to hue saturation. Okay, I'm putting it down to about 34, 35. Yeah, desaturate it. I'm going to change up the color balance. Where are you? Okay, and with the cyan, I'll drop it down to -10. And with the yellows, I'm just going to give it to +5. It's what I used before when I was playing around with it. So again, you can start to just see just having a small impact. And then, because I like to play around with the curves layer as well, I'm going to used to be as what's looking a bit better. That's looking good. So desaturated it, add a little bit of colour balance, thrown in some curves. Again, you can always play around just by selecting that bit there, double clicking it. And just playing around with it. Yeah, we can come back to that later on if we need to. Okay, so just to make things easier, I'm just going to merge these 3 layers here. So click on the top layer, hold and shift, click the bottom layer, and right click or double click and merge layers. So that now just becomes 1 layer. So I'm going to name that. It's a good habit just to get into naming your layers. And I'm going to create it to a smart object. So this means we can edit it. It's gone too far. Convert to smart object there. So again, this just means it can be edited. Okay, go up to filter. You can't see it there in this window, but if you go up to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and just for this image, like I did before, just 6 pixels. It's just going to blur the background. What that does is that'll focus on Paulo. What you can do as well, if you click on the little box here, okay, make sure it's on black. Hit B for the brush. Okay, and you can just, if you want, just bring the Juve logo into a little bit of focus. Again, just a little attention to detail. It's up to you, or whatever club you're using, whatever football club, if you're following along. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that background now. So bring Paulo up, okay, and what we're going to do is do a couple of little things with him as well, a couple of little adjustment layers. So hue saturation. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring him up a little bit. Bring him up to 20. I'm just going to play with that because I might drop it down a bit later on. And I forgot to say I'm going to create a clipping mask so it only affects the layer directly underneath it. If you're not sure about that, okay. Curves again. Okay, and if you hit this button here, okay, that puts into a clipping mask. I'm just going to drop it slightly, pull it across. like the faded look. I think I'm going to leave that. I'll come back to that. And some colour balance again. So hit that button for a clipping mask, and with the cyan I'm going to drop it down to -11, and the yellow I'm going to give it +5 again. So it's similar to what we had before. So looking good, we're getting there. And one thing I forgot to mention with this is I wasn't really happy with the light, so I'm just going to work on that as well on this stage. Okay, so done the background, done the player. Okay, so we're going to introduce some layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this curves layer, so then I click a new layer so it'll be above there. Okay, I'm going to hit the brush tool, make sure I've got white selected over here, and I'm going to opacity 100%, and I'm going to drop the flow down to 5, and I'm just going to paint on some artificial light. And where am I going to start? I'm going to start back here. You can see it coming on there. Just playing around with it, just doing it gently, just to start with. Okay, I'm going to paint a little bit of the grass, not too much, because I want some natural shadows down here. And I'm just going to paint it on, and I'm just going to dot it up here as well where that light is. So we're just creating this artificial light, and I might just paint this. No, it's a little bit too much. Command Z just to undo that. Come back a bit, yeah. There we go. And what I'll probably do is in this tutorial, I'll probably keep coming back to this layer, okay, and just playing around with it. So if you hit the bracket keys in the top right of your keyboard, okay, that changes the size of your brush. And with these lights here from the stadium, is there a light source? So it's like, I'm not even doing anything, but it's creating a shadow underneath there. So again, it's looking good, and with this image as well, it's got some lens flare on already, so it's a pretty good image. Make it a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to use my arrow key, just bring it down a tad. Yeah. So before, I think I put too much down here, which I don't really want this time. So I want it like coming out of the back of him. I think all good art is just, I'm not an art expert, but I just think it's better when you've got the light. So yeah, you can just play around with that. And if I want to drop it down to 1%, I'm just going to paint over the clouds a little bit, and maybe a little bit on the grass, not too much. Yeah. And just a little bit more on the lights. So it's looking good already, so I'm just going to name this layer as well. Background light or artificial light. Okay, cool. So now we've just got that initial light. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the top here and create a new layer. Okay, so there's going to be quite a few of these. To create clipping masks, so now when I'm painting on the light, it's only going to affect Dybala. And with that, we'll try 5%. I'm just going to, in fact, I'm going to make it even smaller. Start here on his neck, around his ears, and I'm just going to paint onto his hair. Okay, so this is the initial light. Okay, you can see his hair's been cut out quite nicely. It's been masked. Okay, I sourced this image straight from Google, so again I'll link it. I'll link it there. So I'm just going to paint the initial. See how much of a difference that makes already. It's looking good. Go paint some light. And what I did before as well, I thought it looked a bit unnatural. Go back to this one, like the light down here. Didn't really like the light down there. So I'm going to come back here. I'm not going to paint it in as much. That's a bit too much. I think that's enough for down here. There we go. That's that side. Around his neck, his shoulders. Again, I think I've chosen this picture quite well. Just on the off chance that the way the light is shining. That's one thing you want to think about. I think I've mentioned this before when you're selecting your images. Just think about the light. And again, I don't want to go too far down his arms. There's natural light on his arms. That's probably as far as I'm going to go there. And a little bit. Yeah, that's looking good. Yeah, so Command 0, zoomed it back out, and huge difference already, isn't there? It's good. I'm liking it. It's looking better than the last one. And just to make it easier, okay, I don't name these layers when it's like the white paint. Just makes it easier for me. It's only when I'm doing shadow. So again, with this one, I'm going to hit the flow down to 1%. Okay, and if I do mess up on this now, I can just delete that layer and restart it. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, make the brush size bigger. And I'm just going to paint over where I was before. So it's just adding on top of the effect. Just add. Paint over his shoulder as though light's spilling out. I'm going to add some more to that shortly. A little bit fade his ear and his hair, and see how it's like we've got this natural fade going on now, haven't we? So we've got that initial layer, and then we've got that second layer on top. And I don't want to do too much initially, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, so I'm going to introduce some shadows now. So new layer, okay, clipping mask. I'm just going to name the shadows just so it's easy to reference. And hit X. That'll swap my colours over here down in the new colour selection. And like I said before, I went massively OTT here. I don't want to do that as much, but I'm just going to bump it up. So I want that initial shadow at the bottom because I want it to be gradual. Yeah, it's looking good. Okay, I'm going to bring it back down to 1%. Use brackets just to adjust the size. And Command 0. It's already having a good positive effect. And I want to paint his arms as well. And it's just playing around with that shadow now. So just going to paint over his hands a little bit, just darken these up a little bit. Underneath his chin, around his collar, and again, it's worth just taking the time just to play with where the shadows are. You zoom in quite far, you can paint his hair. Again, I think I went a bit OTT on his face as well last time. Sometimes, like, obviously I mentioned it before, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's what you want, it's what you prefer, so you can just keep playing around with it until you're happy. That's what it's all about, really. It's just making something that you like. So Command 0, bring me out. Yeah, it's looking good, and while I'm on this layer, I'm just going to start painting in some more shadows. So what I'll do at this point is I'll speed the video up, okay, and I'll slow it down, but all I'm going to be doing is just painting shadows in and just making it looking a bit better, like so. Okay, so I'll speed it up now. Okay, so pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with that result so far. I don't want to go O2T on the shadow because on that one I think it's looking a bit too dark, but this is looking a lot better. Okay, so with the shadows then, create a new layer, clipping mask. With this time I'm just going to do the complete opposite. So like before I was painting the shadows, I'm just going to paint some more artificial light just to add to the effect. It's more artificial light, just playing around with it on his shoulder, on his face, just polish off his hair, around his arm. Yeah, let's have a look at that. Okay, and what you can also do is just to make those shadows look a bit better, just paint on the light bits as well. Okay, so I'm going over a little bit of the shadows because I'm rushing, but again, if you just keep doing this and keep layering it, it's going to look good. And you can make it look a lot better than what I'm probably making this one look. Feels a little bit rushed, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this is going so far. So yeah, it's looking good. So new layer, and probably the last one I'm going to add here. I'm going to just make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to increase the flow. Bring it up to 10, let's see what this looks like. And I'm just going to in fact, go back there quickly. I'm going to bring it up to I'm just painting some extra in. See what it looking like. That bit there, but yeah, I like what we've done. I'm going to plonk some more up on his hair, just on the edges. Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I'm just going to go back, press Command 0, I'm just going to go back to this background light, and we're already on light, and drop it down to 5. I'm just going to maybe a bit too much. Let's come back a step. So 5% was too much. 3%. And I'm just going to paint some more on. Paint some sky. Yeah, it's looking good. And something you can also do as well. So go back to this layer. Okay, so a layer in between. Okay, so a new layer down here. And if you go to a gradient, just up the top, I didn't do this in the last image. What am I doing? Colour, we want it black. And you can just try and pull up a gradient if you want to. Screen, what's that look like? No, don't want screen. Sorry, soft light. So you can just add some soft light as well. Just do some natural shadows. Command Z just to cancel it out. Just on the bottom there as well. Yeah, and you can just play around to your art's consent. So I can go back to shadow and hit B, hit brush. I'm just going to paint a little bit more down here. But I think I'm just being a bit picky there. And the last bit I'm going to do, I'm going to put in another curves level. I'm going to bring it across, and I'm going to just this box here bring up, and you can play around with the fade effect. How's that looking? So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, there's your Paulo Dybala log screen. So I hope you're happy with that. Sorry if I've been waffling and whatnot. Okay, it's pretty simple when you know what to do. Okay, background layer, just mask out the sky. Put a new sky in. Okay, add a hue saturation, color balance and curves layer. Blur that background. Size up your player, whatever player you're going to use. Okay, throw some background light again with the player, some saturation, curves, color balance, and then just play around with the lighting. Okay, you don't have to use white; you can use different colors. And again, it's entirely up to you. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. If you did, sound like a YouTuber. Okay, just hit like. Okay, share it around. Appreciate just passing on my knowledge. So yeah, if you've got any questions, again, just put them in the comments below. But yeah, there's your tutorial. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.